my first time cooking or doing anything with an apron. It's kind of cool. This thing has a little bottle opener on the side. You know this what's the stereotype that people would do where they would it'd be the dad outside on a grill in the middle of summer, just with this on the side, just pop open a beer and just glug 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 back to just flipping burgers. Welcome to Adam's Test Kitchen. This week we're making bagels. Over the last week, my wife and I we've been getting a little. There's been a desire for bagels because we've been baking a lot more, making a lot more bread. We wanted something different, so bagels was what came to mind. We realized that I cook quite a lot, but at the same time, I can get very nitty gritty with some of the details, and we figured why not record it, share it, and I hope that through this we'll all learn how to cook together. And a lot of this experimental. I haven't made bagels before, before today, and this is the first time doing it, so I'm hoping it's gonna taste good. We'll see how this goes. Let's join the ride. I've got 475 grams of all-purpose flour and about 25 grams of vital wheat gluten that I want to put in here. I generally like to weigh out everything now, so rather using tablespoons or cups, I prefer to weigh out, especially when baking, just because a cup can vary. If you have a packed cup or a loose cup, your amounts will vary. If you have a mound, levels, all that varies. But if you weigh it out, you'll have exactly how much you need. I bought this a while ago because I was like, oh, add extra protein into bread. I can make it. But yeah, I thought I could use this for, just for that. Chewy? No, using bread flour makes it a little bit chewier because yeah, it's not so much. It's not like a big difference, but it's a noticeable enough difference, especially when when you're kneading it and you're trying to get your gluten to form. Using bread flour will give you a better structure. If you go to bakeries, they'll use bread flour rather than all-purpose flour if they're now making bread or dough, right? Oh, I'm new to this. I don't know where I'm looking. I'm looking at her, but also at the camera at the same time. Um, the recipe that I followed in terms of knowing how much vital wheat gluten, it's about 95% all-purpose flour to 5% vital wheat gluten. If you see a recipe that says for bread flour, you can use that substitution to get you approximately the same thing as regular bread flour. Um, Before I continue, I'm actually gonna get my water ready because for this I have some yeast, but I want to make sure this yeast is still alive. So I want it to bloom, and that's done by putting it inside some warm water and then letting it sit with some sugar and just and expanding there. So not expanding, but foaming up and coming alive. So if it doesn't do that, then you need yeast. Yeah, then you have to run to the store. So yeah, I need about 320 mils of water. So just gonna weigh it out. Luckily for water it's has a density of 1 gram to 1 mil. So you can just say 320 grams of water, 320 mils of water. It's the exact same. Chemistry. Hey, please. For that I need about 23 grams of sugar. So the yeast, even though it's active and it'll want to move on its own, giving it some sugar will generally help it along. So it has just some sugar to actually start the fermentation process, and that's how you get all your gases being formed. So I'm going to put 23 grams of sugar. So I want to warm up the water to get it warm, just because that'll help the yeast to act faster. If you put it in cold water, then it's going to take them longer to bloom. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave. I'm just going to use my finger. Some people, they'll actually measure the actual temperature, but if it feels warm enough to my finger, it's fine. I'm going to add in the yeast. Sometimes with these yeast packets, there'll be like a little bit of yeast that kind of sticks to the edge, but it should still be enough yeast. Whisk it to dissolve. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for now about 10 minutes. You will see it foam up, and that will be our yeast ready. In the meantime, it's just a matter of now adding the salt, and then once it's all ready, combine it, and then we can start kneading.
A few moments later.
And as you can see, our yeast is quite alive. There's a lot of bubbles that have been formed. It's nice and foamy on the top. So this yeast is active and ready to be used. So added everything in, just gonna whisk it up, and then we're gonna start kneading. It's gonna take a minute, but when it comes to the kneading, I do have a stand mixer, so I could put in the stand mixer. But I've also seen people mention that with bagels, sometimes the dough can be a bit tougher, at least with this recipe, and that could be too much for the motor that's inside the stand mixer. And because this was a wedding gift and I don't want it to break early, I'm going to knead it by hand. But kneading by hand isn't too difficult. At least it shouldn't be too difficult. So I'm gonna move around in this. Once I get a shaggy ball, then I'm just gonna dump it out and start kneading. A shaggy ball. I'll show you. So at this point, I've got a shaggy, but like it's kind of together, kind of not. Um, so I'm gonna turn this over onto my work surface. So I've already washed this. Make sure your counter is washed. Some people they'll have really nice cutting boards. Here we've got our counter. I'm gonna dump this over onto it. And this is where the elbow grease comes into play. Just getting all that flour out. And before I start this, actually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna preheat the oven just to for like 5 minutes. I want the oven to get a little bit warm because when I want this to rest and double, our house is a little bit cold because it's winter and our kitchen's like right beside a window. So I'm actually going to turn the oven on just for a little bit, just to get it a little warm. That'll help us so that when it's now starting to go through its first rise or its only rise, it's not trying to do it in a cold environment that's acting against it. It's been a while since I've kneaded the dough, I'll be honest, because we've been lucky enough to have a stand mixer. But the idea is just to pull the dough in on itself, and then I'm pushing with the heel of my palm. So I pull in and I push, pull in and I push. So now it's a little sticky, feels dry. There are wet spots, but I'm gonna keep on going for about 10 minutes, and then it should eventually come together. You can see it hasn't even been a minute, and it's not feeling. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say it's not feeling as sticky as it immediately sticks to my hand.
A few moments later.
So I let the oven go on for a bit too long, so the oven's a little bit hot. So I've opened it up so that it can get a little bit cooler. But my dough feels really good. But what I'm going to do just to make sure the dough is ready, there are a few tests, or two tests. One, you can see that as I'm pulling it, it's kind of holding onto itself. So the protein structure is quite nice, not like just ripping apart, right? That's one test. There's also another one called the window pane test. What you do is that if your protein structure or the gluten has been well formed, you should be able to stretch out into a very thin layer. Let me show you a very thin layer, and then there should be light passing through. Hope you can see that, but well, if you take a look, it's holding itself quite well. I mean, it's breaking apart at the bottom because I'm really pulling it, but it's going very thin. So I'm ready to let this rest. The way I'm going to do this, take my dough ball, bring the corners in, turn it into a little ball, little tight ball on the bottom. So I've got it into a pretty tight ball so that the top stretches out. And I'm gonna lightly oil this bowl. Doesn't matter which oil, any oil, just a little bit so you can coat the entire bowl. Take the dough ball, put it around, and I'm gonna cover with some cling film.
1 hour later.
And if you would look at this, our dough has doubled in size. So you can see it's quite big, which is awesome. What I'm also going to do is now that it's done rising, I'm going to punch it. The reason we do this is because I learned this today. It's because when the dough begins expanding like this, the yeast is very, very active. And what ends up happening is that all the yeast now it basically, as it makes all those bubbles, it almost separates itself away from all the nutrients. So we degas it to bring everything back together. But so that when it goes through its next rise or its cook, it's all close enough to actually still expand. Punch it, hands are clean. All right, so I want to divide my dough into 8 portions. I think if you want smaller, I'm testing this out, so I'm going to divide into 8. Depending on how big they are, maybe next time I'll divide into 10. But what I want to do is I want these to look as even as I can. So I'm going to try and get them all the same weight. I have 832 grams, so I need about 104 grams per bowl, per ball, sorry.
See, this nowadays is where I roll my eyes. Now, if you're gonna make this money, measure it out, homie. I have something for you, sir. Wait, how good is your eyeball measurement?
Oh Lord.
Measure. How do you wanna like? Let's put that on it. If they are within 10 grams of each other, like how?
So this needs to be
how are
416.
they?
Ah,
How many grams
all
within
right.
each other do you think they are? What's your confidence level?
All right, I think
Oh wow, you're cutting out some. Let the people see what you're doing.
I think this is half.
So your confidence is that they're currently 50%, and so they're the exact same weight.
Within 10 grams of each other.
I feel like 10 grams is high. That's not a good
No,
confidence.
10
If
grams.
your skill was like,
Because that,
plus
no,
or
because
minus
that's
10
10 grams out of 416, right?
okay, so
That's
you
not
just
a very
they're
high
both
percent.
208.
No. Because they were originally 832. So now that I split them up, they're
Oh,
432. So a 10 gram plus or minus, I think that's a good percent error here.
comments if you agree that.
I don't know. I think it's a good percent error because it's not. What's 10 out of 4? Can you calculate that? So that's like 1 over 40. That's like 2.5%, something around there.
0.0, yeah.
Okay, I was
2.4%.
2.4, 2.5%. All right, I was close.
Okay, okay.
That's 407. Ooh, because it's supposed to be 416. So it's 9 off.
Okay, eyeballs.
423.
Wow. So it was not 50-50 though, but yes.
It wasn't 50-50, but within 10 grams. So I was within tolerable limits. All right. So my wife brought up a good thing. We saw some different comparisons, some videos that when they were making their bagels, they turned them into balls and then let those rest. Some made them into bagels and let them rest. So we're gonna just try the two and see which one works better. So both of them are still gonna involve making a ball. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. If you had a rolling pin, that'd be better, but here it's a rough method. So what I'm doing is I'm taking all the different edges, pulling them into the center. And then as I do that, I'm getting a rough ball and I'm pinching the bottom as I'm twisting just to just to seal it off. And so I do that until the bottom is now sealed off. Then from the top, I put it down my palm and I rotate around like a ball. So my palm, so it the ball will move around my fingers and my palm like this. Do that all the way through and I have a ball. I'm gonna let this rest with the seam side on the bottom. And now to make the bagel shape, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now take my index finger and my thumb, kind of push it in the center, and basically just puncture and make a hole. So once I got in a hole, I'm just going to take 2 fingers inside like this and spin it around and around until I get about as far as I want. I don't want to go too far because then I'm worried that it might break. But at this point, it's not really stretching out too much more. And I've got a pretty rough bagel shape. So I got a pot of water and I'm going to put I want to put a teaspoon of baking soda. That should help the edge get crispy when it bakes. And then I'm also going to put about 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, or you can put regular sugar, or I think molasses, malt sugar, malt extract, one of those ones. It helps to flavor it, but again, it also helps you get form that nice crispy skin on the edge. So I'm going to do that, get it boiling, and then we'll move over to the stove because we're going to boil these bagels before we bake them. All right. So now that I've gotten sugar dissolved and everything dissolved, I'm ready to start. So I want to boil I want to boil the bagels, but I want to boil them for about 1 to 2 minutes per side. From what I found, the longer I boil it, then the chewier the bagel is going to be. I want these to be kind of chewy, kind of not. So I'm going to go for, let's say, a minute, like a minute and a half per side, kind of an in between. Seems like I can do 4 at a time. Don't want to overcrowd it, right? I don't want it to now, I don't want them to stack it against each other. So now there's enough space for all 4. So I'm gonna let this go for about a minute, minute and a half, and then I'm gonna flip them. So they've been there for about a minute, so I'm now just gonna flip them all over. So flip them all, and I'm gonna give it another minute and a half. So the timer is up. I'm gonna take these out, and because we're testing things out, what I'm gonna do is on some of them, on 2 of them, let's say, I'm going to put some. So these are quite big when I'm looking at them. So I think next time I could actually make these smaller. I'm gonna take them out, and the side that was in the water, that's the side that I'm gonna have sitting up. So I'm basically flipping them around and letting the side that was touching the water be the side that's now exposed to the air. And the side that was in the water is going to be touching the parchment paper. Okay, the last step, I realized this afterwards, that I want to do an egg wash, but these ones I already put the onions on. That's fine. I'm gonna put the egg wash on the last 6, and then on 2 of them, I'm gonna put the onions on. And we'll see if that makes any difference depending on when to put the onions. But this is just some eggs that I whisked up together, put a little bit of water to just help it get a nice sheen and color as it bakes.
Why'd you put the water?
Water just to thin it out a bit, because sometimes I find that just whisking it on its own, it's too thick that it doesn't come on the brush very easily. So sometimes I put just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit of water, just so it's
It looks like it's flowing a bit
looser.
like
And we're all set. So now just my oven has been preheated to 425. I'm gonna put them in for about 20 minutes, I believe, and then we'll come and see what they look like at the end.
20 minutes later.
So, funny thing, your camera's not on. Oh, not your camera, your mic. So we had actually recorded the whole tasting and everything, but for whatever reason, my phone cut the recording. I think someone tried calling me and that cut the recording.
Whoever that was, you're an op.
Anyways, we tried both of them. We both seem to prefer the onion.
Yeah.
What we're seeing though is that it's not exactly like grocery store or bakery bagels. It's a lot. It feels a little bit lighter, right?
Mhm.
Those ones tend to be a bit denser.
Yeah.
So we're thinking that could either be the flour. It could either be the flour. It could be that one of the recipes we saw, they let it cold ferment. Maybe there's something else that we're missing inside the bagel. It still tastes good, but it's not like what you'd expect from a bagel, right? Either way, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun to do. I'll see what I can do to fix it next time. And I'll also maybe do cheese bagel. That would be fun. Put some cheese on top and let it broil in the oven. I don't know. We'll take a look. And this is where the experiments comes into play.
And you're also making strawberries?
Yes, that's true. I'll also be trying to make some strawberry jam that'll go along with this. Stay tuned. That will be coming soon. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. I'm going to put these in the fridge. Bye.